I want to discuss gaslighting and the likes by way of, yes, Kevin Smith is part of the conversation right now because of what he's done. But also it's something that's not just done by him. It's not unique to him. Other people do it, of course. Other people that are not necessarily in the production of this, the people that they try to appeal to, the Kevin Smiths try to appeal to, do a lot of gaslighting. Now, what I mean by that, and it's more so referring to people's passion for certain work. And I think the scene has to be set because what these disingenuous assholes like to do is, for one, they make arguments that most people aren't generally making. It's not part of the actual conversation, but also it completely dismisses context of what it is that we are talking about. Here's some things here. There's a couple of non-arguments that you almost always hear when you hear stuff or see things being done, not just from Kevin Smith, but right now with even Marvel and DC and what they're doing to some of their characters, not only in the books or in live action and like movies and TV shows, but also within the books. And what I mean by that, one of these that you always hear is, well, it's not for you, it's for the kids. How many times have you heard that? It's for kids. Space Jam gets criticized. It's not for you, it's for the kids. It's such an interesting argument to make, especially considering that they're using brands that were created maybe when other people were kids, but those kids are now adults. So you have no point to reference that unless you are trying to capture people's already understanding of who these characters are, right? And He-Man, for example, is not a show that is like akin, maybe I think there's a difference between youngsters being able to watch it versus youngsters being specifically aimed for that demographic. For example, He-Man isn't that. You can tell in the style of the animation it's not that. Another example, we'll go even back further. X-Men, the animated series. Was it on Fox Kids? Of course. Was it wrote for the kids? No. You know how I know that? I spoke with the fucking showrunners. You can go watch the entire interview and they specifically stated exactly that. We didn't care where it was on, they said. They never wanted to write down to who they felt the audience was. So it's a bad argument, but what the reason why they say that type of stuff is because they want to shield it from the criticism that it's inevitably going to get. So what better way to do that than to dismiss anything it is that you say about it by just saying it's not for you. And sometimes it's not just for kids. It's not for you no matter what it is. It's because you're a man baby, as they would like to call you. But it's gaslighting, right? Like, for example, with He-Man, that is something that is going a longer period of time before, for one, that being a sequel, right? You had that shit coming out in the 80s when He-Man, when the original Masters of the Universe, and I know they did something in the 2000s, but it's a long extended period of time. So for you to even grab that, you have no reason to even grab that brand unless you're trying to appeal to an older demographic. It's just the older demographic didn't like the shit. So now it's not for you. It's like the guy who is on his podcast, Kevin Smith's podcast. Well, that old stuff it still exists. Nobody's taking your DVDs, basically telling you that you must be a pig. So it's like, if you say everything generally positive about that, about Space Jam, about anything coming out by way of Marvel, well, that's okay, right? All the critics and all the grown ass reviewers can give it 5 stars, and that's perfectly fine. But the minute someone is an adult and they give it something negative or say that it's generally a negative depiction of something, well, now you're a man baby. It makes no sense. Don't allow these assholes to gaslight you guys. Don't allow it. But also, it's another argument that you kind of hear about this sort of stuff, and it's my favorite. It's a different universe. Oh my God, that's my favorite one that they like to use. Is a different universe. Another one where they basically get to say, "Hey, we're gonna run this damn thing into the ground. Is it going to be something like you want, or that you desire, or that you grew up on, or not even that? Something that's fucking decent? No. Well, okay." It's a different universe. So when you see goofy versions of characters, when you see characters acting out of characters, it's okay. because it's just a different universe. Sure, they're capturing, or rather trying to use the brands and the recognition, the name recognition, the uniform or suit recognition in order to sell it. But it's just a different universe, right? It's just different. It's just different. A lot of these guys' bad arguments are centered around gaslighting because they conflate arguments and then they make it seem as if something can't be done to, let's say, even appeal to a demographic of people that like this material, that were actually fans of it, right? While also giving something for people that are going to be newer viewers. The latter, for example, doesn't even matter. The people that they're trying to get to consume this stuff is going to consume it either way. This is why I've always said that the different universe stuff was a terrible argument. You know why? You know why? Because if you made a direct adaptation of a comic book and you crossed it over into live action, they would still eat it up. They don't know about it, right? So that new viewer, they have no connection to source material. They may know of who the characters are, like the Batmans and the Superman of the world. They're part of American culture. You have people that know who those characters are, having never read a book. So if you gave them an absolute direct adaptation, like it was direct, like as in it crossed over right into the live action, it was verbatim to what happened, basically strip by strip, but them basically filling in some of the plot holes to make the show extend or the movie extend. They would still eat it up. They would still watch it. They would still like it and enjoy it. So all you do is effectively turn off the old fans, because oftentimes when it comes to like the Kevin Smiths of the world, these guys are arrogant, man. They're arrogant as hell because they feel like they have to leave their imprint on everything it is that they do. So to do a direct adaptation or something that honors what happened before them, well, that's not risky enough. They can't leave their imprint. You don't know it's them that did it, right? So they got to make sure that they show themselves, and that's often why you get these ridiculous versions of these characters. That's why they put that stuff in there. That's why they do that stuff, because they're arrogant. Because anybody that was a true fan of this stuff, or rather they were knowledgeable on the source material to the point to where they just wanted to adapt it, that's exactly that. It's not my job to get in the way. For example, if I was ever brought in to do it, whether it be screenwrite, show run for any of these shows, like say it was a Batman and I wanted, I did some sort of adaptation of a classic arc or something like that, right? It's not my job for you to know who it is that I am. That's not my job. My job is to make a depiction that crosses over well into the live action to make it digestible, while also honoring what existed long before me. I didn't create Batman. I didn't write that classic arc. That didn't come from me, right? My job isn't for you to know my name. And that's the difference between folks like myself and these other guys who lack integrity because they think it's all about them. But the minute you have something against that, well, they gaslight. Why are you complaining? It's not for you. It's for the kids. It's if you don't like it, don't say anything about like all of this other retarded shit that doesn't actually address anything that you said. It doesn't actually address the substantive argument that it is that folks are making. It's just you basically trying to dismiss it because you are uncomfortable and you don't want to have the conversation. So this is why I continue to say, guys, don't allow them to gaslight you. Don't allow Kevin Smith to gaslight you. When he says grow up, all of these are things that people say to try to shield themselves from criticism. When they roll out the folks that will support this no matter what because they want to remain having access, they're gaslighting. They're saying that you're seeing things that simply are there, but they want you to act as if they're not there. You are under no requirement to do that. It's simply not an argument. If you didn't want to have something akin, and this isn't necessarily exclusive to Kevin Smith, the other Kevins do it, Kevin Feige. If you don't want to be compared, you don't want there to be a contrast, you don't want people to reference source material, don't use the characters. Simple as that. And then you won't hear from us. We may actually, you may hear from us making fun of you, because you know what you get when you get people who are now in control of like these properties, not just with Hollywood, but just overall, even with the comic book, because the comic book stuff is shit too. You know what happens when you get them trying to do original stuff? You get what Emilia Clarke did. You get characters that have armpit hair and their superpower is periods. That's what you get. You get those goofy sci-fi shows, cartoon shows with the cat, with the got shit come like the cat. You know, I remember that we showed y'all. It was like some uber weird show that was on sci-fi that they were trying. I don't know what they were going with the cat and shit. The fairy cat. I forget what it was, what we were talking about there. But just go look at it if you want to look at the previous show as well as the previous segment. That's what you get when you got them trying to do original material. But you wouldn't hear us saying, well, this isn't like this, or this isn't honoring this. This is not how this character. You wouldn't hear any of that if you simply didn't use the characters. But that's not what you do. Instead, what you do is you take stuff that's already recognizable, because that's the only way people would see this shit. Nobody would go watch your original stuff. Nobody would go do that. And when we see the tokenization, even when it's done in the comic books, and we call it lazy, because you live in a day and age where social media is at a click of a button and you can have a new character be adopted. You can have a new character be to the audience. That doesn't mean they're necessarily going to accept them, but you get what it is that I'm saying. There's no excuse for tokenization. It's lazy, it's ridiculous, and there's no excuse for it. Simple as that. So when you get black versions of classically white characters, like my argument has always been, and here's another gaslight for you. My argument has been very, very consistent. I've been one of the most, if not the most consistent. No, I have. I'll go ahead and take that crown, because it was me that was calling it tokenization in the first place on YouTube. You won't find videos predating mine, where I was specifically referencing race changes and stuff. You see, my argument has always been consistent. Make new characters. That's it. If you want a character that is black, make a new one, or use the ones that you already have that are original and black. You say you're against Val Zod. You say you're against Calvin Ellis, because all they are fucking carbon copies of who we know to be Superman. If you say that, what do they say? Well, you don't want to see black people on screen. You don't want to see black characters. Nobody said that. Nobody fucking ever made that as an argument. I don't know one person that's in comic books that has ever not been around comic book shops. My entire fucking life, I have never fucking ever heard anybody ever that was an actual fan of comic books say they didn't want to see a black character. I've never heard that being said. Nobody's making that argument. And if there is, it's some minute, like, guy in a box in a corner that doesn't even represent the general opinion of the general populace. Nobody's making that argument, but they like to pretend that you are. Gaslighting. Gaslight. I say make a new original character. Stop fucking taking characters that we already know. I don't want fucking Miles Morales. I don't want fucking Val Zod. I don't want these goofy ass depictions that are just, you specifically created these characters to just be black versions of white characters. I don't want that. I didn't ask for that, right? He hates himself. He doesn't want to see black characters. See, these are just shit lighting logical fallacies. That's what they are. And you're under no requirement to actually have to even address those non-arguments, because that's exactly what they are. Non-arguments. They are people who fucking suck at life. Usually they are talentless hacks who think that just because they create it or just because they do it, it should be supported. And what a lot of people do, definitely in the era of social justice, they try to hide behind identity and other stupid stuff, just like they're doing right now with the He-Man shit. You saw Tila? Well, you don't like the direction that they went with this. You don't like the bait and switch. You don't like them promoting it as if it was a He-Man show, and then all you do is get Tila the show. Well, you must hate the women. All right, man, that's exactly what it is, apparently, right? It's because someone fucking hates the women. That's why, right? No, never mind the long list of female characters that most guys have supported, because it's, when you talk about comic books, historically, it's been a man's hobby anyway, right? It's been a man's hobby. I'm not saying that there aren't females or women that like comic books. It's not what I'm saying. That don't. Obviously there are. What I'm saying is that it's generally a male-dominant dominant hobby. It has historically been. There's nothing wrong with that. Yet, and still, there are female characters that have grown up to prominence. Some attached to the X-Men, some are not. DC, for example, with its villains. Who the fuck did you think was supporting them? Huh? It wasn't you. You don't read books. Who do you think that was support? It's a non-argument, man. All they are attempting to do is to shield themselves from criticism. So I wanted this segment to exist. I wanted this right here, what it is that we're talking about right now, because I just want to be able to refer to it when you get someone who inevitably say, when you're against the Val Zod's, when you're against the Miles Morales, when you're against black recent versions of characters that we've already seen, where all they are just, hey, you want Peter Parker? Here Peter Parker is in black. Like, it's the same shit, same branding and all of that. Oh, well, he has a couple of powers difference. Like, it's Spider-Man. I don't want black Spider-Man. Black Spider-Man was okay. But there are original black characters that exist right now. You can use them or you can create new ones. Like what we'll be doing with the, obviously, there is no source of material to reference for what it is that we're going to be doing with my upcoming universe. You're not required to have to field these non-arguments. I would laugh at them. I would make fun of them. I would call them stupid son of a bitches when they try to shield themselves from criticism by way of just making shit up out of thin air and saying that you're making an argument that you're not making because they have nothing else to rely upon. Because this is how, not just Hollywood, it's the people that, I'm going to end on this note, it's not just Hollywood, it's the people that also basically consume anything that Hollywood are pigs. I don't like to, some people like to use cows as a reference. Cows are, let's say this is a person that's been around, farm life growing up, different. What's the animal, if we are going to compare them to an animal, it's a pig. Because if you know pigs, definitely hogs, like these damn things will eat anything. If you lay down in a pen for too long, they'll eat you. That's what they are. And that's the audience that they're trying to appeal to. Is fucking pigs that will, anything they create, sometimes even out of spite, but anything they create, they expect you to support it. They expect, and if you don't like it, you can't talk about you not liking it because God forbid you positively, or negatively criticize them. Oh, you give them heaps of positive praise all day long. That's allowable. That's permissible. But you say something against it, well, you're a man baby. You're not a man baby if you're a grown ass adult that like that shit. You're not a man baby. You're only a man baby when you disagree and you voice your opinion. See, that shit don't make sense. Doesn't make sense. But that's who they're trying to appeal to, is those types who will simply digest, or rather consume, anything it is that they throw at you. And because they're appealing to that audience, they expect you to be that. In any event that you don't, well, now there's a problem with you. Hilarious.